Okay, so this video is about using Autodesk Inventor to produce a simple pewter casting mould that we're going to use for the pewter casting of your keyring or pendant. So when you open up Autodesk Inventor, you'll get greeted with this screen, and what we're going to do is open up a new document. Okay, you've got a whole choice of various different templates to use. Now, what we want to work with is the metric templates. So these are the ones using millimeters and centimeters, obviously, and the one we're going to choose from this is in our parts here. We're going to choose a standard millimeter IPT. That's an Inventor part file. So we're going to choose create down here, and it will give us our little workspace shortly. Now, the pewter casting mould that we're going to create is this one here. So it's quite simple, the actual shape, and in this area here, which is like a square, this is where you can design your own pewter casting. So looking at Autodesk Inventor, we've got our sort of workspace over here. I've just maximised that so I can see the whole workspace. We've got our kind of history tree over on this side that shows us what we've done in an order, and all our tools and options and things are up the top. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is going to choose create a 2D sketch and click create a 2D sketch again with the left mouse, and it gives us these things. Now what these are is work planes. There is 3 basic work planes. This is like the floor, if you like. This is looking at it from the front, and this is obviously from the side. So generally I tend to work from the top down, so I'm going to click on this XZ work plane here, and it will select that work plane, and I will zoom in so I'm looking down at the object. Now what I'm going to first start off with doing is using the line tool to create the basic box around the outside of my shape. So this is the outside of my shape here, and you can see it's 80 high in millimeters, and then it goes 20, 20 and 20, so it's 60 going across. So I get my line tool first, and I'm going to start here on the origin. So you notice on the screen it snaps to 0 by 0, and I'm just going to click once, move my line across. Now notice it has a measurement there appearing in the screen, and it has an angle at the bottom right there, 0 degrees. Now if I move this around, it will obviously change the angle and the length as well, but what I'm going to do is just use the keys on the keyboard to type in 60 for my length, and it will give me a line. Now obviously that's going off the screen. I can use this, which is my view cube, and if I just click on the view there, it will zoom out so I can see what I'm actually using on the screen as well. If I hold the middle mouse button, I can obviously move around a bit like using the pan, and I can also use the wheel on the mouse to zoom in and out like this as well. But if I'm just trying to see what I've drawn already, I can just click on that top. Now holding the line down, I'm going to put my 80 dimension there. I'm going to zoom back out again, and I'm just going to finish off this drawing. Now there's many different ways of doing it, but I'm just going to basically line up so that I'm in line there. I can see obviously at the bottom it says 60, and it's at 90 degrees from that line, and just create my simple sort of shape there. So that's the basic outline of the shape I'm trying to produce here. Now you can notice we've got some lines coming down at a slight angle. Okay, we'll produce an angle in a little while, but what we're going to work on is trying to work out where these points start and finish. So we can see they come in 20 millimeters from each point. So if I go back to my drawing over here on Inventor, I'm going to change the choose the dimension tool here, and I'm just going to select a dimension from one side. Sorry, not going to use the dimension tool. I'm going to use my construction line tool, and I'm going to choose my line selection as well, and then with the construction line selected, I'm going to bring it across and just type in 20 millimeters. Now what we'll get when you draw a construction line, you can see it's like a dotted line. Now this, I can draw many of these construction lines, and it won't make any difference to my drawing when I go to extrude to turn it to 3D, but what it will do is give me some points to reference to. So you can see I've got my first point there, which is at 20 millimeters from the side. I'm going to get my line tool again, still with the construction line selected, and I'm going to go from the other side and do the same thing, 20 millimeters in, and again it gives me that construction point. I've got 2 points there that I can draw off of. Now if I go to this tool, the trim tool, I can click on the part in the line there, and it will trim that selection out if these are all solid lines, but because I've only got the construction line there, I'm just going to use that. So I could trim out that section later on as well. What we're going to do now is from these points is I'm going to draw a line down and to a slight angle. So I'm going to turn off the construction line because this is actually going to be a proper line now, and we're going to go down and then across a little bit. So What I could do is type in a distance there and an angle. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to come down by a distance of 15 millimeters and type, just click enter to select that, and I'm going to come in about 5 millimeters, coming across like that. Now, to finish my line, if I get stuck on this, I can just right click and click OK, and that gives me those two lines. Now what I'm going to do to get my angle is draw a line down from the top there to this point here. Now, because that is a solid line, again, I can just select these parts that I want to get rid of, and just by pressing the delete tool on the keyboard, I can select my line and press delete, and that will delete that out. I can select this one as well and take that one out. So we've got our line selected there from that side. Now I'm going to do the same on the other side. Now what I should have done is use the construction line when I was going down. So if I come down with the construction line now, 15 millimeters, and go in 5 millimeters, it gives me that point as well. Again, I'm going to right click and click OK to select that, and it gives me that point at the end there. Now by turning off my construction line, I can pick up the point at the end and the point at the starting point there, and I can now get rid of any lines that I don't want. So if I go to the top here, we can see I've got all the lines I need. I'm just going to turn these 2 points here from construction lines to actual lines, and you can see that's the basic shape created. Now what I'm going to let you do is, in this section, we're not going to be too technical at this stage, we're just going to draw in a shape. So if I was doing, for example, like a basic sort of fish design, I'm just going to draw my basic shape in, and I'm making sure that my lines connect up at the start and end. You notice it selected that and it completed that section in. I can obviously adjust these and make any corrections to spend a bit of time to make this look a bit better, but that's my basic kind of shape created. Now if we go back to our drawing, you can see we've also got these little circles, which are obviously holes that are going to be produced in the pewter casting as well, which is where we could potentially put a bolt through to lock the various parts together. Okay, now they are 10 millimeters in and they're 10 millimeters down, and the radius of those is 3 there. Okay, so what we're going to do is produce again those construction lines to give me the positions. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to choose 10 millimeters and produce my first line, and then I'm going to come down 10 millimeters like this, and that gives me a point to work off of. So that point there, I'm now going to use my circle tool there, and if I click on that point there and start dragging it out, I can type in 3 for my radius. In fact, that's 3 diameter. I'm going to type in 6 for my diameter, because it comes up as a diametric measurement, and then press enter. So I've got my first circle there for my first hole. So all you'd need to do is repeat that for the other sides, and that would produce that as well. Now we could go on and use perhaps the mirror tool or some various other tools, but we're just going to keep it basic to do it this way first of all, to get a bit of practice with the tool. So again, I'm going to come across 10 and go down 10 like this, and produce myself another circle on that cross point, remembering to make sure to turn the construction lines on and off, and do the same again for my other 2 circles. So we're coming in 10 millimeters, coming up by 10 millimeters, and finishing that line. I'm going to put my circle on there, turning it off again as a construction, and this repetition is very good to get you familiar with the tools as well. So make sure you go through and spend a bit of time doing this, giving yourself those various points, and obviously checking your lines are correct as you're going through as well. So my final one there, and that is my basic sort of shape completed for the pewter casting. Now at the moment, if we move this around, you can see it's just flat. There's no physicality, there's no weight to the drawing, it's just a line drawing effectively. It doesn't actually exist. So what we're going to do is turn this from a sketch into an actual physical part. So I'm going to click Finish Sketch up in the corner here, and I'm going to choose this tool here, which is Extrude. Now extruding, if you've used any other sort of software, is basically turning things into 3 dimensions. Now what I'm going to do is select, once I've selected the extrude menu, it gives me this menu toolbar come up. I'm going to click the parts that I want to extrude, which is the hole, and I'm going to type in 6, because that's the thickness of the MDF that you would be using, or would probably be using for your pewter casting. Now when I click OK or I press enter, you can see I have my physical part there, and it's like a solid piece of wood. Now this file, obviously as it stands, could be 3D printed, and it gives you a very good idea about the sizes of the various different parts.